Hi, it looks like I'm live. Hi, and welcome back. Hey, Ken, great to see you. I'm glad you're here. Welcome back to day two of Week of the Grief. Hi, I'm Sarah. I'm a story coach, and this is Week of the Grief. It is a free daily writing inspiration series that I'm giving because I love helping writers write and I love helping people create. And Week of the Grief is something new that I'm trying because this is the time of year for acknowledging grief. And I don't know of anyone who hasn't experienced some kind of loss over the last couple of years. And as we reviewed yesterday, as humans, we can consider ourselves to be all born of grief. And some of the most beautiful writing that I know has come from places of exploring loss and making sense of some of those losses. So I'm so excited to talk a little bit more about that today. And I'm not supposed to have favorites, but I'm just really looking forward to what we're doing today. So first, a little quick review and then a little bit more about what we're doing here and how you can jump right in. If you're not already part of Week of the Grief, you can join through the link below. It's totally free. You'll get all of the downloads and recaps and all the videos and the reviews. Hey, Laura. Hi, I'm so glad you're here. Yeah, and it's so great. Thank you for showing up live to be part of this because I really love writing with other writers. And if any of this is inspiring to you, please let me know. We're having a open mic this Thursday at 8 p.m. Pacific for folks to share the writing that comes from this week, or any writing that comes from and around all the prompts that I'm doing with you guys this week. So definitely sign up to become part of Week of the Grief, and you'll get more information on how to participate in the open mic. I'd love to have as many voices in there as possible. So yesterday was sort of like an introduction and a jumping right in. If you were here yesterday, or if you watched the video and you followed along at home, grab that writing. And if not, that's okay. You can totally start fresh today. And before we jump into the writing, I just want to do a quick disclaimer that I am not a mental health professional. We're not doing mental health work in here. This is a writer's group. This is writing inspiration. However, so the disclaimer is, if you are finding that really difficult, heavy feelings are coming up for you as you explore grief, please stop, consult with a trusted friend, a professional, seek help, and come back when you're ready to write. This is not the place to go for mental health or medical advice, but this is the place to come for breaking through writer's block and sitting with the feelings of grief and exploring them through writing. So you're in the right place if you'd like to do that, especially if you're willing to do it by hand. We are writing with pens, and this is part of my reclaimer. We are reclaiming humanity by using pens on paper to explore what we're doing, what we're feeling. And so the reclaimer here is we all belong as writers and artists with all of our feelings to explore what's coming up for us through pen on paper work. So you're very, very welcome to be here. I'm so happy that you'd like to do some exploration, some deeper exploration of what can happen when we sit with and write around, through, and about grief. Okay, I think those are all of the things that I wanted to say. The disclaimer, the reclaimer, and now the container, the container. Grief can be experienced as so many feelings, even the lack of feeling, as I talked about yesterday. And writer's block can also be experienced as so many feelings, like anxiety and or even like a lack of feeling as well. And I feel like those two things might be similar in some ways. And what's helpful in both cases, both grief and writer's block, what can be helpful is a container, something with rules that I can follow. And inside of that, I can really start to explore, fall apart, feel my feelings, know that the container around me is safe and steady and sturdy. And inside of that, I can really start to unravel and unwind. So, what do I really mean by that? Most wisdom traditions that I've heard of have some kind of set of rules to follow around death. Like in the wisdom tradition I was raised in Judaism, after death, there's a 7-day period for grieving in a particular way in the home with the close family, and what gets done within those days, and then also within the 30 days after death as well. It's a time-bound container for the way that things go. And there's a particular set of rules, not just for honoring the one who's passed, but also for taking good care of the living. So having some kind of set of rules to follow can be really helpful in a time where everything else feels very chaotic, upside down, as if all of the rules have flown out the window. It's nice to know that there's some set of rules to follow. And in the same way, a lot of creative people, a lot of artists have reported that when it's unclear what to do, what way to move forward, it's great to have some constraints. For example, only allowing yourself to paint with 2 colors, or only allowing yourself to use words that do not contain the letter E. So having rules that really constrain can sometimes allow creativity to flourish. And we're going to explore that today with writing. And think of these rules that we're going to follow as a container for beginning to explore grief in new ways. So if you got the download for today, you can go ahead and open it up, day 2. And if not, don't worry, I will screen share. The day 2 download gave you a little preview of what we're doing today. And the first thing that we're going to do is an acrostic. If you are familiar, maybe you did an acrostic. Maybe the last time you did an acrostic poem was in the elementary school classroom. It's a popular form where you take the name. It could be the name of a person that you lost. It could be your name. It could be something from your list yesterday as you were fast and furiously making a list of things that you've lost, something that popped out at you. It could be a short phrase, and you write the letters going down on the page. So if I were using my name, Sarah, Sarah, I would write those going down the page, and then each line of the acrostic will start with a letter. Like the first line would start with an S, then the second line of the acrostic would start with an A. One of the most famous acrostics is the Book of Lamentations, where the destruction of the temple in Jerusalem is being described through an acrostic form with 22 lines. That's one line for each letter of the Hebrew alphabet, going from Aleph to Tough. Those are the letters in the Hebrew alphabet. So you can use the entire alphabet if you wanted to describe the utter, complete loss of something, going from A to Z, and each line would start with the next letter of the alphabet. So you could choose that form as well. So take a moment now to look over your list from yesterday, or get quiet to think about what name, what thing you would like to write about, a loss, something you have lost, or a person. You could also use your name if you are saying goodbye to an old version of yourself. Or, like I said, you could use the entire alphabet. Take a moment now to decide what that person, place, or thing is that you're going to do the acrostic on. And then take out your sheet of paper, write that name or phrase going down the page, and each letter is going to start a new line of your acrostic. We're going to spend the next 5 minutes working on that. You don't have to complete it now. We're going to get a good start on it now in the next 5 minutes. So go. And take a moment to finish the line you're working on. Okay, so that's the acrostic. And yeah, feel free to return to this and complete it later. You can use the same name and start many new lines, write many, many new acrostics, just using that same phrase or that same name over and over again. That can be cathartic. And although I haven't tried it, my intuition tells me that using the whole alphabet could be very cathartic, possibly transformative, to write the complete letting go of something using the whole alphabet. So I encourage you as homework to give that a try. Use the entire alphabet. And it turns out the Book of Lamentations has the whole alphabet used 3 times for 3 chunks, and then the for, I think it was for 1, 2, and 4. Then the third chapter is the alphabet used 3 times in a row. So 3 lines that start with A, 3 lines that start with, well, Aleph, 3 lines that start with Bet. So that was like showing complete and utter loss of the temple. And I think it could be quite transformative to use the acrostic format, the entire alphabet in that format to indicate loss, complete loss. So see, and I report back, let me know how that goes for you, if that feels like the letting go happens. Oh, now we're going to move on to another constrained form of writing, a poetry form called the pantoum. This is originally from Malaysia. The pantoum is really about weaving lines. And I'm going to give you an example of what I mean by that. So let me stop screen sharing and read to you. Maybe I'll screen share this one. This is a wonderful poem by Natalie Diaz called My Brother at 3 a.m. It's a famous poem. And all of these links and resources I will share. If you're in the group, you'll get the recap page with all of these. So let me go ahead and screen share. I will read this pantoum. My Brother at 3 a.m. by Natalie Diaz. He sat cross-legged, weeping on the steps, when Mom unlocked and opened the front door. Oh God, he said. Oh God. He wants to kill me, Mom. When Mom unlocked and opened the front door at 3 a.m., she was in her nightgown. Dad was asleep. He wants to kill me, he told her, looking over his shoulder. 3 a.m. and in her nightgown, Dad asleep. What's going on? She asked. Who wants to kill you? He looked over his shoulder. The devil does. Look at him over there. She asked, what are you on? Who wants to kill you? The sky wasn't black or blue, but the green of a dying night. The devil, look at him over there. He pointed to the corner house. The sky wasn't black or blue, but the dying green of night. Stars had closed their eyes or sheathed their knives. My brother pointed to the corner house. His lips flickered with sores. Stars had closed their eyes or sheathed their knives. Oh God, I can see the tail, he said. Oh God, look. Mom winced at the sores on his lips. It's sticking out from behind the house. Oh God, see the tail, he said. Look at the goddamn tail. He sat cross-legged, weeping on the front steps. Mom finally saw it, a hellish vision, my brother. Oh God, she said. I see this poem content-wise really as losing a brother. And format-wise, this follows the pantoum, and I'll show you how to do that in a moment. So you're seeing Natalie took lines and weaved them into the next stanza. So the second line here became the first line here. The fourth line here became the second line here with small changes, and then 2 new lines. Those 2 new lines, the second one here becomes the first one here. The third one here becomes, it's the fourth one here becomes the third one here. And I have something to show you this so you won't get lost. So it's really a weaving and a very specific form of taking 2 lines from the old stanza and making them into the new stanza and weaving in 2 new lines. And what's interesting about this is you would think that it has to be almost mathematically predetermined by you as the writer. I have not found that to be true. I've actually found that it writes itself forward, which is not to say that it doesn't take skill or forethought, but just to encourage you to jump in and see where the poem wants to go, because the format, the form, the container will take you there. So I'm going to pull up something that will hopefully lead you through this form. And we'll give a pantoum a try. So this would be stanza 1, line A, B, C, D. Take line B, that becomes line 1 of your second stanza. Then write a new line. Then your last line from the first stanza becomes your third line. And then write a new line. So these second and fourth lines move up in the next stanza. Then you write your new lines. Those move up and you write new lines. When you're ready to write your last stanza, take your second and fourth line, move them up, and then go back to the beginning, your very first stanza. You've already written the end. The end is contained in the beginning. Another wonderful reason that I love using pantoums for grief. The end is contained in the beginning. So let's take a few moments to begin a pantoum, see how far you get, see how this container works for you, and use this format and experiment with it. Go. Okay, that was 5 minutes, and I'm weaving my last line in right now. The A and the C mean you can choose either A or C. Um, okay. All right, that is the pantoum, weaving. Okay. Right. Ready to jump into our last poetry form of the day, our last container for grief. It is a Japanese death poem, the Jisei. I hope I'm saying that right. And it's a really old form. And there are lots and lots of beautiful examples of death poems out there. Famously, I guess they weren't really normally written until the writer or the artist was on their deathbed. But I've used the Jisei to say goodbye to an old form of myself, um, the death of a way of thinking, the death of a concept. For example, saying goodbye to victimhood, writing a death poem to thinking that I'm not good enough, writing a death poem for that. So those are ways to think about how to do a jisei. You've heard of a haiku, probably. Um, a popular format for a Japanese death poem is like a haiku, but with a couple extra stanzas. I'm going to read a death poem now. And the number of syllables is not going to translate very well because it's translated into English from Japanese. But the original poem, written in the tanka form, has 31 syllables: 5, 7, 5, 7, 7. And here's an example of one by the Zen monk Kozan Ichikyo. Empty-handed, I entered the world. Barefoot, I leave it. My coming, my going. Two simple happenings that got entangled. So the form again, I will put up here on the screen. We'll follow the tanka form, 5 syllables, 7, 5, 7, 7. So very limited, perhaps our most contained container. Squeeze your death poem into 31 syllables. Go. and take a moment to wrap up. Thank you for joining me today. We did 3 poetry forms, 3 containers for exploring grief. And if you would like to take any of your writing further, please reach out to me and let me know. Please also look into joining us for the open mic on Thursday night, because I would love to hear some of your writing that's coming out of this week. And I really look forward to seeing you guys tomorrow, where we're going to continue our explorations in, around, and through grief. So until then, write on.